Good morning. This is Ken Long from Tortoise Capital. I wanted to share with you some commentary that came uh, from this weekend from the chat room. Umberto asked me, um, "Oh, thank you. I'm doing fine. Everything is well." And he asked for my opinion. He asked me to look at the following attached file, and it happens, he observes, sometimes after there's an rlco regression line crossover outside the river using Bollinger Band 30 and plus or minus 1. And the price finds support at the far side and then continues on to go in the trend direction. I know this isn't really pattern 3, but can I do this trade? And more importantly, do I have any rules for this case? Thanks for all you do. Best regards, Umberto. Thank you for the kind words, and thanks for asking a very good question. So the specific file he was looking at was in this, or trade was in this red circle, and his observation was here. He sees a regression line crossover from this red circle to this red circle, so we would call that a successful RLCO pattern 1. And then it pulled back and found support vicinity, the far side of the river. And then instead of failing back to the Bollinger Band mean, which is this red line, it takes off here. And so he makes an entry in this location with a stop down here, and then is able to take this trade. It goes outside of the floodplain for a little spike, and that's his signal really to be ready to exit. And he cashes right here. Very nice trade. This is in DuPont with 3-minute charts. And so my observation then would be to the direct question. Well, I actually do see that as a pattern 3 support at the far side of the river after regression line crossover. We could argue maybe we would want to see that north, but really if you look at the difference between pattern 2 and pattern 3, it really is just a question of where we want to call the support level. So in pattern 2 we'd say it's at or above the Bollinger Band mean. In pattern 3 it's at or above the far side of the river. So this has, I would say we could describe this as support. To me, it's pattern 3 at the far side of the river. It didn't come back and test the Bollinger Band mean. Okay, call it pattern 2.5. You could also just simply call this a pattern 4. And this is a trade we want to take, by the way. It's finding support here above or at this support level, and now instead of failing, it's continuing on. Uh, I see this as a pattern 3 support at the far side of the river. But I also see a pattern 4 when I observe a support level, a higher support, a higher support, a higher support, and then instead of failing here, it takes off. So I love this entry. I love that you get this entry before it breaks out above this high, because as you notice, when it breaks above this level, you get this rapid acceleration. So I would rather be into this position here with a tightly managed stop, so that if it takes off in this urge and this surge to expand, instead of me trying to chase and seeing how I get filled, all I have to do is get my stop to no lose plus dinner for 2, and then I can enjoy this move for a few minutes while I am waiting to stalk. And then as soon as I get price outside of the floodplain, I am absolutely stalking this. So the short answer, the direct answer, is I see this as a pattern 3 or pattern 4. And now while we're here, what I want to do is just I want to go through my list of RLCO patterns and just label the things that I'm seeing. I see pattern 1. I should actually have gone back here earlier. So there's a pattern 1 that goes from RLCO to RLCO. So you can observe a lot just by watching. Here's one that was finding support or resistance at the river after a successful RLCO. That's a pattern 2 continuation. So here's pattern 1, RLCO with an entry here. I would see this one pulls back and finds support at the Bollinger Band mean. That's a clear pattern 2, and it takes off. I think of this as pattern 3 because it found support here at the far side of the river. I see this one as a pattern 4 continuation. You could call that pattern 1 going this way, but I really see this as part of this trend line. If we think of that as the first leg, we can see a second leg here. So I see this as pattern 4, a simple lazy W. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, continuing to see a pattern of higher lows. And here's a sixth one. If you don't get this entry, I look at that as a sideways quiet channel. You get price, both regression lines inside the river, and then it breaks out, and then you had the Bollinger Band pinch. So this is a clear pattern 5 to me. This was the moment where if you thought this swing high was going to fail, this is a natural place for it to fail, or at least drift sideways. But instead, what you get is one more buying surge, and so you either got pattern 4 entry here and got this trade, or you got pattern 5 entry here and got that trade. I love the pattern 5 right here. And then you've got price pushing outside of the floodplain once more and then rolling over. And it fails so fast that there's not an additional RLCO, but I would consider this to be uh, uh, a pattern 1, counting this as the RLCO. Then you have a successful RLCO, comes back, finds support at the edge of the river, and failing again. That's pattern 3, support or resistance at the far side of the river. Then this is a pattern 2, which is after an RLCO. It now comes up and gets rejected at the Bollinger Band mean, so that's pattern 2. That's my quick look at the direct question that was asked, and then putting that inside the life cycle context of regression line crossover. So many thanks to Umberto for a very good question of the week, if you will. Keep the questions coming. Post these in the chat room, or send them to me, and I'll try to comment on them as time is available for our mutual benefit. So take good care, guys, and keep your risk measured and your powder dry.